For me, McLaren are clearly well-intentioned. I do not believe for a second they are favouring one driver over the other. I have a lot of respect for Zak Brown and Andrea Stella and what they are trying to achieve here. However, in my opinion, this bending over backwards for a sense of parity between their drivers, they are going about it all wrong. Because I do think there is a way they can have their cake and eat it. They can give their drivers equal opportunity without all of this drama. I think it is achievable. But if they carry on as they are, it is only surely going to end in tears. My name's Tommo. Let's talk about it. Now, this week's action in Qatar pairs up perfectly with the Beyond the Grid podcast they did very, very recently. Andrea Stella and Zak Brown. I will be referencing that throughout the podcast. Link in the description to the full thing. Would recommend you give it a listen. They make some very interesting points, some good, some not so good.
Did you agree on that philosophy from the get-go?
Yes, we're racers.
Yeah, we are racers. We are
racers.
McLaren Racing. We are in the home of McLaren Racing. We are here to race. I think on this one, the agreement with Zak was like, from day one, we are racers. We are going to face it as racers.
Was that 6 times between the two of them? They said the word racing, we are racers, we are racing. That is consistently being pushed as the narrative as to why they do the things the way they do, why they want 2 number ones, why they're not going to go lopsided and put all their eggs in one driver's basket and try and be parity, be equal, all that. I am arguing in this video that they can still be racers, they can still be McLaren Racing, they can still prioritise racing above all else, but not do things the way they are doing them.
We are going to accept the discomfort that this causes when you approach racing like we do. Like, guys, we support your aspirations. We know that you want to both be champions.
Accepting that inherent discomfort, well, I mean, there's always a degree of discomfort. Doesn't matter what team you're in, whether you've got a number 1 and 2 or 2 number 1s, whether you're at the front or the back, there's always going to be discomfort. It's how you navigate through that and instill confidence and belief in the drivers that they can get on board and they have a genuine shot, a genuine opportunity at winning in this team. And find me a list of how many teams with 2 number 1s fighting at the very top have not blown up, because I ain't seeing any. Maybe go back into the day, I don't know, but it's certainly in recent history, I can't offer you a single example. They are attempting to achieve an ideal that has never been achieved before, for good reason. Yeah, you accept the discomfort, but you have to also accept that there's an inevitability that however you cut it, it's going to be a challenge.
There will have to be some rules because you come from the same garage. One has to go first and the other one has to go second. We execute a pit stop in the same pit box.
And I get Stella's point here, practical rules of engagement, and you're talking about pit stops here, which is a prime example, right? And you can extend that to strategy as well. It's one thing to allow your drivers to race. It's another thing to allow your teams to race, because ultimately these F1 teams are all individually operating 2 garages and in some way 2 teams, because each car is going to have its own strategy. It's going to play out its race in its own way, not only for the driver, but for the strategy, for the pit stops as well. When Lando comes into the pits, that is his pit crew for that pit stop. And when Oscar comes into the pits, that is his pit crew for his pit stop, you know? That's the way it is. And this is to the crux of my point why McLaren's interference doesn't work. However, it doesn't seem like Zak Brown's very open to that.
What do you say to people who accuse you of over-managing your drivers, over-managing the situation, meddling too much?
Ignore them.
A degree of tunnel vision is, of course, very important. We've talked about this season with Lando blocking out the noise, and we're seeing a better version of him for that. At the same time, to just, fingers in ears, la 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 la, we're going to do things the way we want. There's been a big backlash against McLaren for a reason. And I go back to a point that, Andrea Stella makes here.
We want to see them racing with respect for the brand. McLaren and McLaren Racing and the legacy of McLaren Racing is bigger than Andrea, is bigger than Lando, is bigger than Oscar, is bigger than anybody else. And wherever you are in the execution of your duties, you respect the legacy of McLaren.
The way I see it is that the way McLaren are acting, the way they're choosing to manage their drivers, is not doing their brand any favours. Certainly not in the minds of the majority of F1 fans who are looking at the way that they've played it out. I don't know, maybe it's not the majority of F1 fans, but I feel like the sentiment is very much McLaren are micromanaging this championship so much that they are taking a lot of the joy, the fun, the excitement, the sport, the passion, the feel out of it, you know what I mean? But also potentially allowing Max to come in, sweep in and take the championship, which is not only going to annoy McLaren fans, but Lando fans and Oscar fans independently as well.
I think the reason why you see such a great relationship between Lando and Oscar is they know they have equal opportunity to win the world championship.
Lando and Oscar's good relationship with one another, and I don't doubt, actually, I think their relationship is fine, is great. It's more for me, it's their relationship with the team, their trust, their faith in the team. When you're trying to walk a line where there is grey area, and we will talk about instances where, you know, split strategy, not split strategy. They've gone both ways, McLaren, at times this year. Bad pit stops, good pit stops. What constitutes a bad pit stop? How bad should it be to give the position back if that makes a difference? Blah, blah, blah. You are opening yourselves up to incidents where there are grey areas. And again, I don't think they need to do it that way.
We know what happens when you don't pursue enough the fairness, the equality, the sportsmanship within a Formula One team, within a Formula One team.
It is nice to see a team allowing their drivers to be competitors. That fundamentally is not a bad thing, and I want to see more of that. They're not allowing all permutations of racing to play out as they do naturally, and I'm talking bad pit stops. I'm talking alternative strategies. These are the two key core things, actually, that I think they are getting wrong. This is what I would propose: a system where you allow your drivers to race, but you also allow your two separate micro teams within the team to race as well. You always allow split strategies, and as soon as these cars are on track, they essentially fight for themselves. If there is an opportunity to do an alternative strategy, just like Lando did in Hungary, where he took the one stop that no one else favoured, he went for it, rolled the dice, and it paid off for him, that should be allowed. But then you look at Monza, and one driver gets a bad pit stop, and that causes the order to be swapped. It was Lando's pit crew when he had that pit stop, and they messed up. When Oscar had his pit stop, they did not mess up. That was his pit crew at the time, and you allow that to happen because you can't be like, right, every single pit stop is going to be exactly 2.5 seconds. What if there's a second between pit stops? What if there's 2? What if there's 3, 4, 5? Where do you draw that line? You're opening yourself up to grey areas that don't need to be there. If you just say to both of your drivers, so everyone knows ahead of time, right, look, lads, as soon as you're out on track, you are going to have complete autonomy of your strategy. You do what is best for you. When you pit, we will deliver you the best pit stops we can. Sometimes they'll be good, sometimes they will not be so good, and that is racing. However, we are going to give you the same equipment, the same hardware, the same car. I'm very, very happy for them to have complete transparency of setups across garages. That's fine. But then allow not only the drivers to race, but the strategy crews to fight against one another. You know, why not? Because for me, that is racing. That is really allowing racing to play out, and the drivers can't really complain. They can't look at the team and think, well, hang on, is there some preference going on here? Because you know the ground rules. You set the ground rules, you make as much as you can black or white, and keep the grey out of there. Conspiracy theories will always exist online. That's always going to happen. There's always going to be accusations of bias and preference, because ultimately we will never know, right? But if McLaren are pursuing this ideal, let your drivers race, let the strategy crews race, let the pit stop teams race.
We do hope, and we are working very hard to make sure that the driver's champion drives a papaya car. And if that's the case, there's only going to be one. But for us, it's important that the other one will think that there's been sportsmanship, there's been fairness, there's been equality. Within this framework, we have the conditions to win even in the future. We are protecting the present. We are protecting the future.
And Andrea says here he wants to not only reinforce the present but the future. But this middle of the road way of going about it, I think, is only going to create more instability going forward. I do.
If Max were to take the title this year, given your dominance? Will you regret the way you've gone racing?
For us, the important thing is that we can say we have done our best. And we have done our best according to the way we go racing.
Done their best according to the way they go racing. Their definition of racing, which, again, I understand the premise and I'm on board with the premise, but I'm not on board with the execution, because you cannot be 100% consistent if you start interfering. Let the drivers race, let the strategists race, let the pit stop teams race.
I want to make sure if we don't win, he beats us. We don't beat ourselves.
Now, that's a really interesting quote from Zach. I want to make sure he beats us, we don't beat ourselves. And for sure, you can't doubt the impact that Max has had on this title as an individual, as a driver. Red Bull continue to iteratively upgrade their car as well to close in. Absolutely credit to Red Bull and Max, but Qatar's a prime example where McLaren did fumble, and I'm sorry, I'm not hearing anything else. I know the team have denied it, I know the drivers have denied it. The reason that neither driver came in is because they were thinking about the team game and not making a decision this late on in the season with things this tight that could be perceived, and I'm not even talking about the outside world perceiving it, perceived by the drivers themselves as preferencing one over the other. If you bring them both in, well, that's going to hurt Lando, because he's going to have to queue behind Oscar and going to fall down the order almost certainly. And if you just bring Lando in, well, that's going to hurt Oscar, because Oscar should have come in the first place, and Lando will almost certainly jump him and finish ahead, and that's going to damage certainly the trust of Oscar. And with Lando, he would kind of have to in some way accept that the lead car does get priority, and that should just be a hard and fast rule. It wasn't the case. They didn't do it that way because, again, they've got this awkward middle ground and they've backed themselves, I think, into a corner through no necessity. Because, again, I do think there is a way that they can achieve this parity, keep the drivers, the teams motivated and breed and facilitate a healthy competition, a healthy rivalry between the two sides of the garage, not just the drivers.
I'd rather go, we did the best we can and our drivers tied in points and the other guy beat us by one, than the alternative, which is telling one of our drivers right now, when they're 1 point away from each other, oh, I know you have a dream to win the world championship, but we flipped the coin and you don't get to do it.
Maybe this is easy for me to say, but I don't think it needs to be either or, Zach. I do think there is a middle ground, again, where you can allow both sides of the garage to race without picking one over the other, without massively prioritising.
The best way to win the Constructors is to finish first and second in the championship. And the best way to win the Drivers' Championship is to have two drivers going for the Drivers' Championship.
Yeah, from a constructor's point of view, two number one drivers, happy days, great. But from a Drivers' Championship point of view, what he's just said there is wrong. Like, it's not true that the best way to win a Drivers' Championship is to have two number one drivers. No, you want two drivers that are split by about 3/10, really, don't you? You want that Bottas-Hamilton gap. That was prime, perfect, really. Schumacher-Barrichello, that kind of gap, A Verstappen-Tsunoda gap, bit too much, really. Two number ones is not the best way to win a Drivers' Championship. Sorry, like that. Clearly, and the present is proving that, and the past has proven that, right? Time and time again.
And in the event 2007 happens again, I'd rather have that outcome than all the other outcomes by playing favorites. We won't do it. We're racers, we're going racing.
You don't have to play favourite, Zach, to also give your drivers and your teams on both sides more autonomy to do what they need to do. And we go back to the brand point that Stella made earlier. If McLaren don't win this driver's title with either one of their drivers, it's not a good day for the brand, is it? Come on. And look, no one remembers the Constructors winners. No one remembers who won the Constructors in 2008. It was Ferrari, yeah? Lewis Hamilton won the driver's title. And that's all people remember 2008 for. Please, McLaren, you need to learn from this, because I really do think if they continue on this way, continue tying themselves in knots, not only are they going to have worse results for it, and Qatar was a prime example of how that can manifest in a very negative way for both. Oscar was denied the win that he should have had. Lando was denied a podium that he should have had. And now we're in a situation where instead of you've got two McLarens at the top, split by 12 points, you've got Lando and Max split by 12 points. So you've shot yourself in the foot there. And yeah, this will be arguably, I mean, it will never be more memorable than 2021 for obvious reasons, but if Max does win the title this year, it will certainly be his second most memorable, and it will be forever remembered as the one that McLaren bottled, the one that they threw away, right? Because they absolutely, with the car that they have, 800 points they are in the Constructors right now, miles clear of anyone else. For them to not win the Drivers' Championship, that would be seen as a failure and damaging to the brand. And I just hope they're not going to stick their fingers in their ears and ignore, you know, the noise out of principle, right? Because there is a time to ignore the noise and there's a time to listen. Let your teams race McLaren, otherwise I think it's going to do way more harm than good in the future. But let me know your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below. My name's Tom, thanks again, have a good one, ta-da.